Welcome to the famous, hyped up episode 6, where really this is just our episode where we can just dump all of our theater stuff because we've mentioned it a lot in the past episodes, which isn't bad. I mean, that's where we've spent most of our time knowing each other. But there's a lot of funny stories in there.
Yeah, there are.
There is a lot of inside jokes, but obviously people watching or listening may not have been in our theater, and we're not going to be just talking about things you don't understand. We got some really weird, funny stories from there.
Yeah, we're hoping that our experience is definitely not universal, so you might not relate to it, but you might get a few laughs out of it. That's kind of our hope. Is we have a lot of really quirky, really funny, really stupid stories that came from this short little era in our lives, and there's so much of it. We wanted to dedicate an entire episode to it. So herein lies the episode titled "Definitely Not a Cult,"
which is if you were in theater, then you may understand. It's very much joked that theater kids are like a little cult of people, but really they're just a bunch of nerdy, quirky dorks. But before we get into that, we have matcha today. Yes, it is Starbucks. We figured we'd try a different Starbucks because, I mean, I always get vanilla matchas, which is pretty basic, pretty easy, and I figured I'd try something else. And the Christmas season's kind of rolling around. If you're watching on the video, you can see there are already Christmas cups on here. So,
Yeah.
I thought about trying a peppermint matcha, but I think I might save that for later, a little closer to Christmas. So I tried a sugar cookie one. I will say the syrup is a lot sweeter than I thought it would be, so it's a very, very sweet matcha. I feel like that's the mistake I've been making the most on this podcast, is I'm afraid it's going to be too bitter, so I give it a little extra sweet just to be sure, and then ends up being way overboard.
Yeah.
It's still good, though. I just probably would add a little more milk and kind of, but it's still pretty sweet.
The further we get into this little venture of trying different matchas or I mean it's from different places, but majority what it is different things in matchas. We kind of learn what we like. And what's kind of funny is what I'm drinking today. It's not really blended anymore, but it was when we got it. I got a blended one, and it just has some vanilla in it. And what's funny about that is I actually grew up drinking them. Before matcha was popular, my dad used to go to Starbucks, and they called them green tea frappuccinos at the time. So I've been drinking them for forever, and this one, it's kind of nostalgic. So I went for something familiar, and you tried something new, so we're a little opposite today. Yeah, they're good. I clearly have had more than Rose has had. But we've been doing some content work, behind the scenes stuff, so we've been busy.
Clearing off our hard drives.
That too.
Yeah, these 30-minute intervals on my Canon are eating it up, but we're figuring it out. But yeah, we're going to get into this episode because it's probably going to have a lot, and we're probably going to maybe go off on segues, but we're going to try and not do that too much.
Buckle in, this might be a longer episode.
Yes, but we promise it is interesting. Now, granted, it is kind of funny that whenever you hear about other theater kids, there is kind of a similar vibe or similar kind of jokes or things that they've gone through, but for us, it was weird. Everybody has weird, different, quirky experiences with theater, in my personal opinion. From the theater people I've met outside of school, everybody's got the craziest stories.
Right.
But, yeah. So I think we can go ahead and just start by briefly saying how we even got into theater. If you want to go first.
Yeah, sure. So I got started a little later. Rose was in theater longer than I was, but when we've touched on it before, but to briefly touch back on some things that I've said before, I was just kind of your regular run-of-the-mill high schooler. I was in tennis. I was a varsity tennis player, and that was pretty much it. And then I had to fulfill an art credit my sophomore year, and I took musical theater. for a semester, and I really, really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I was on stage, I sang on stage, I danced on stage, and I worked a lot on the props. And I liked it so much I wanted to do it more. So I joined One Act, which we had to try out for One Act. So I had to like do an audition, prepare an audition, to get in. And I entered into it my junior year. So I was only in theater my junior and my senior year. But I really liked it. It was a new experience. It was definitely different from like the world that I was in beforehand, which sounds kind of crazy because it's not like I moved schools or anything. But I definitely, made a transition. It was new people, new environment, and we keep talking about like funny experiences. It's definitely different in terms of like the camaraderie is a lot a lot more what would the word be? Maybe excitable would be the right way to put that. Anyway, it was definitely new for me. So
Okay. So I think I might have, again, we say this a lot. I've probably touched on this before. I don't know. I can't remember everything I say. But I joined One Act freshman year, right off the bat. I really just loved theater in middle school, because in middle school, that's a time when all the extracurricular activities were just the teachers who wanted some extra money or didn't really have anything to
right.
do. No offense, but it's just like kind of chill time. You could go crazy, you could do whatever you want, you could do like really silly plays, you could actually just make it a study hall, like, whatever.
It wasn't very serious.
It wasn't super serious. And I honestly had a lot of fun doing theater because I was a very like I didn't care about how I looked on stage kind of person. And I remember how nervous I got for like my first itty bitty little play in 7th grade, and I ended up having the greatest time. I still remember that play. I think I still remember my first line, so my first ever line on stage. And my line, I literally played a stage manager. That was a cute little play that a teacher wrote. And then 8th grade, we had the teacher that we would have for high school theater. So when I met her, she kind of noticed how much I just really needed to let some energy out on stage, I suppose. And she told me, I vividly remember her sitting down across from me in the cafeteria and going, okay, listen, I know you're solid with comedy, but how do you feel about drama? And I was just excited that she was asking about that. So I was like, I could do drama. Yeah, I could do that. I could do whatever you want me to. Sure. She was like, cool, because I'm thinking about doing a drama for One Act. And she had told me, like, in 8th grade that she wanted me to audition for that, which was very daunting thinking about auditioning for a class. Like, that wasn't really a thing at our
Right.
school. But One Act play was considered like a varsity theater team. We got Letterman jackets because we qualified for that. So
Uh-huh.
that's hanging in the back of my closet. That's funny to think about. But so she was, I wouldn't say she was picky, but she definitely knew like the kind of people that would not just like be good on stage, but like would really benefit from being in that class. I feel like she just kind of
Yeah.
knew.
I think it was a balancing act of like who was going to get you somewhere in terms of like their performance and their ability, and also like who needed a place. And I think she's really good at that too, picking out people who are lost and they need a place to call home. Um and that's definitely what it was. It did change a little over the years. Like eventually auditions were kind of out the window. Um but auditioning for a class, that was wild.
I want to say I do remember the first thing I did, and that was there was a sketch comedy group that I liked, and there was this bit that it was mostly two people talking back and forth, but I managed to alter it so it was just me talking by myself, and it still worked. And I remember she was very entertained when I did it because I was nervous, but like it was a silly thing that I could just be silly with. I do remember doing that because I was kind of being nostalgic and watching that sketch comedy group back on YouTube, and I clicked on that and I was like, oh yeah, I used this for my little theater audition. I couldn't remember because you have to re-audition every year,
Mhm.
usually with stuff like that. I
Even
couldn't.
if you were in it the year before, you had to re-audition.
Yeah, I want to say I did that. I definitely did that like La La Land monologue, not the one where she sings, but like her when they're out talking, and he's trying to convince her to come back to LA. I think I did that my senior year, I want
Mm.
to say. I can't remember the others because I would have done it 3 times? 4 times.
4. Yes.
I don't remember 4, but I guess I did. It's very faint in my mind. But I think a lot of people that re-auditioned, like, they had fun re-auditioning, but they kind of knew that, like, they probably weren't going to get cut or anything
Yeah,
like that.
we weren't. I don't think I'd call it like an exclusive club, but I do think that like once you're in, you kind of have a pass, you know? And we were still auditioning, like we were still going in and doing the same process, but I think there wasn't as much pressure after you'd done it the first time or two because you just knew that you'd been in it before and that you were valued by the team and that sort of thing. And so there wasn't a lot of like, will you or won't you get in? Because there was very much like the crew, like the theater people. And that didn't change. I mean, it fluctuated, you know, you lost some years or you gained some other years, but for the most part, it was the same core, you know, as time went on. So,
Yeah. It definitely fluctuated a lot. Like, you'd have maybe like 5 or 6 seniors graduate one year, but my grade in that class was only 2. Up till senior year, we actually got 3, but it was just us 2. So,
yeah, that's crazy.
mhm.
Because when the year that I started, so I was a junior, there were 4 or 5, was it 5 seniors?
I think it was, yeah.
4 or 5 seniors, and the year before that I know there was more that
Yeah.
year, and then it like slowly trickled down from there. By the time I was a senior, there was only 3 of us. There were 4 unofficially, but 3 officially. And that's it. And then I guess it trickled down from there too.
Yeah. I definitely remember going from freshman to sophomore year, so those seniors, that felt like a big chunk.
Mhm.
And then it kind of just very slowly trickled from there. But yes. I know that first year we did a World War II play. I'm sure we've mentioned it was grayscale, so we were painted. Our skin was painted with like gray makeup, and like we spray painted our hair like black and all that. But I will say, I remember this the other day. This is a funny story. This was a mess up on stage. Thankfully, so with one act we take it to compete with, obviously, and that's not in this town, that's somewhere else. And obviously, you know, if you win that, you kind of rise up, you get to go compete in here and then compete next. We got to compete twice with that one. We went to state with that one, which was really fun.
Mhm.
But before we do that, we performed it at the school for, like, you know, parents, teachers, all that, to kind of, you know, let all of it out for the first time there so they can see it. And then we take it on the road, basically.
You know, that was the first one act I watched.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow. My feint wasn't that good. I think that one, the first time we did it, our theater teacher, she recorded it so we could watch it back, which was super helpful because I remember looking at it and thinking like I could do better than that because I had a lot of like physical stuff of like acting weak, and like I think I got slapped twice, I think.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Anyway,
Just little Rose getting smacked on the camera on
Yeah.
the floor every time you're on stage.
I got my revenge my senior year. It's fine. On a different sibling, sadly, but you know, still got my revenge.
What?
A older sister slapped me
Oh, I get it.
freshman
Never mind.
year, and then I got to slap her
The
sister
younger
that was in
one.
my grade my senior year.
Got that. Yes, understood. We are gonna like segue a little bit of segue. We know some of our former theater friends watch these. We know some people that watch them. We're gonna try to keep names out of it. It is harder with this
Yeah.
specifically.
It's hard.
So if we slip up, we might like change it, you know,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But if you notice us talk like that, just ignore it.
That's just what that is.
Just ignore it. We like to protect our friends.
Yeah. We're not talking about anything bad or disrespectful.
No.
It's mostly just like an overall general being nice. Like, we
Yeah.
don't even say our theater teacher's name. It's just, you know, because this is internet. It's gonna
Yeah.
be on the internet. So that's what that was. She caught on. But you know, that was a World War II play, so it was a very much a darker tone, but like we did really well. because drama can be tricky, especially if you don't have a lot of the tools. But we
Mhm.
did, like, it was a really good story. We all were, like, very hyped up for it. I was hyped up for it. It was my freshman year, and I was like, this place is cool. And I'm getting hit, and I'm fainting,
And you're getting
because
painted.
I'm getting painted. Yeah, I got painted more than anybody else because I played a statue the following year, so I got to do the gray paint again. But, I remember I had a scene where the main character's reminiscing about working as a, not really reminiscing, just looking back on the memories of being a soldier at a mostly women dominated Auschwitz camp.
Mhm.
And so she was like dragging me across the stage to be taken like a doctor's office, which, probably a lab, but it's implied that, like, they do experiments on me or like stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't want to go and I'm super weak. So she was dragging me. So the main character was dragging me by my arm. So I'm trying to act kind of like weak and like falling down, and she's getting angry and trying to like pull me up. So I'm looking at the ground. I'm not really looking up. And thankfully, this happened our first run of it at home and not at competition. So there was these poles that we used to hold up the curtains, and it's kind of just like what you think with like maybe like a photo shoot. Like you got two vertical poles, and then you just got one across as a beam and just hooked on like a shower curtain. That's it. And like they hooked in, and then we put the curtains on there. Well, in this particular scene, she drags me across the stage, and the doctor very dramatically opens the curtains, and his line is what made it so much worse yet funny. So we get to that point in the time at home, and I'm looking down, and she drags me over, and I hear a noise, and all I see out of the corner of my eye is that pole that was hanging horizontally, corner of it go to the ground, and I just hear it go down, and I knew that when he opened those curtains, the pole fell. But I heard a noise. Turned out it had hit him in the head
It
as
did.
it came down, and he straightened up, kept a poker face, and said his line, which was, "Are you having trouble?"
I vividly remember watching this from the audience and like to see you guys pull that off. Cause like those are the funniest parts. Like if you're not into theater, and you haven't seen a lot of plays, it is so funny to watch the actors mess up and then have to correct themselves and keep going without breaking character. It is honestly so impressive and it's hilarious.
I was lucky that I was looking down, so I didn't see it, but I heard it, and I knew there was a mess up, and obviously the audience was laughing, so I was like, oh no. But I didn't see it, so I didn't crack. But apparently, two people on stage did kind of crack, but they just turned around.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taken up in this doctor's office and put on the table, and like we went on with the scene. And then when it went dark in between scenes, the crew came up and put the pole back up. But thank goodness this happened at home and not at competition, because this was, not only was this a drama, it was a World War II drama. Like, we couldn't have something like that on stage. It would mess up the whole tone of it, especially
Right.
when you're dragging a prisoner to have experiments performed on them. Doesn't look good.
Right.
But I vividly remember that my freshman year, and that was I want to say that was one of our best plays in the 4 years that I was there. I
No, I
held up
think
five with my hand. If you didn't notice, I had to put it down to make four.
no, I definitely think you're right because I felt like, and like maybe this isn't true, but I felt like when I joined One Act, it was almost as if I spent 2 years trying to play catch up with Dark Road because it was just so good. And like, like some years a sports team does really, really well because they've got a good lineup. It's the same thing with theater. I mean, that's common sense, but like it really is the same thing. And so like that particular year, like everything went so well from the outside because I wasn't involved that like the next few years it felt like we were trying to hit the mark that Dark Road hit. Um so
Because to list them off before we might get into stories, my freshman year, which would have been 2017 2018, was Dark Road, the World War II one, and then following year, sophomore year, so 2018 2019, was also a historical drama. I believe that was Lafayette number one.
yeah, it was fictional, but yeah.
That one was a That was a fictional one, but it was like based around like the yellow fever in New Orleans at the time. And then my junior year was 39 Steps.
Mhm.
I felt like I needed to gasp. Apparently, you need to gasp whenever you say 39
It
Steps.
was well, finish your thing.
Yeah, well, that one. And then my senior year, it was,
That's a butterfly one.
that was a butterfly one. That one is a sad story, if we'll get to that one. But that was, so 39 Steps was your senior year because you were the
Yes.
grade above me. So that was your graduation year.
Yeah, so I was in Lafayette #1 and the 39 Steps. The reason that we gasp, and we'll probably continue to gasp every time that we say the 39 Steps, is because we've kind of briefly talked about it before. I don't know if we cut that part out or not, but we probably cut it out. Anyway, the reason we gasp is because the play was structured around like a story being told, but then there was like a host off to the side who would like intercut and like say stuff or like tell you to gasp or tell you to laugh, that sort of thing. So it's almost like breaking the fourth wall. And so every time that the actors on stage performing in scene said or heard the 39 Steps, they'd gasp.
Everyone had to freeze, look out to the audience, and gasp.
Yes.
And that's what kind of made it funny. It was like a
Yeah.
little comedy mystery thing.
And because like a lot of it was dramatic. So you're doing these dramatic scenes and then somebody says it and then you have to stop what you're doing, turn and gasp at the audience. It was very funny. Really was very funny.
They got a big kick out of that.
I think there was one during my death scene.
Maybe. We both had death scenes in that one. Because,
Yeah.
murder mystery. She was murdered early on and given the main character a document of information. I was murdered later on as kind of like one of the final ones, and I had a very dramatic death that I got to have fun with. I don't think the main actor cared for it because I kind of went all over the place with that, and he was just kind of done with me, I think. But
He was done with all of us.
He was done with all of us.
We were kind of all like checking out by then. You know, he actually he broke my antique phone. So there's a scene, and I don't remember when it takes place, but I think it's towards the beginning when my death scene was. And we're in like this apartment, and it's me and the main guy, and they needed a phone because it like rang at one point, or no, it didn't ring. I was dying. That's what was happening. Is my character was dying, and he tries to pick up the phone to call an ambulance, I guess, and he picks it up. And he goes, "It's dead!" And he slams it back down on the thing. And this was like, I don't think it's an actual antique phone, but it's a phone that looks antique, and it's mine. It's like my personal phone. And I brought it as a prop, and the phone was slammed so hard down onto the receiver that the top part of it no longer like stays straight. We have to like glue it so that it stays on right. Now. Anyway, that's interesting. It sits on a table in my mom's house.
I do remember that now. He's a very physical actor. He very
is.
much went for it with a lot of
Honestly, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Because it's really funny that we used to quote that all the time. He'd pick up a phone and go, "It's dead!"
That was a big
It's
quote,
very
yeah.
funny.
That was definitely an iconic one from that one.
Mhm.
I think in that play was also one of our scandalous ones that we had to be careful with. And that simply meaning we went to a small school. There was a lot of big no-nos on stage.
Mhm.
That includes kissing of any form, whether it be mouth, cheek, or even implied but never seen. Therefore, we had one in this one where I think in like, you see in like mysteries or like, James Bond movies, they hide from the bad guys by like turning and pretending to like kiss somebody so their faces are shielded or something.
Mhm.
We had something like that, but this was like he pulled out his hat, put it in front of their faces, and like dipped her with the hat in front of them, implying a kiss.
Yes.
Even that apparently got in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, so both of the plays that I was in, Lafayette #1 and the 39 Steps, they both had one. I'm pretty sure it was the same thing. No. Lafayette was a hug, and the 39 Steps was a hat. Yeah. Anyway, anything to like keep it PG, and honestly, maybe not even PG fits. It's more like G.
Yeah.
Um, they were very against it. I think the rules have changed a little bit. My own brother's actually in one act right now, and he had a cheat kiss in their one act. But when we were around, I remember it was like we
Mm-mm.
cannot do this. You cannot even like pretend that you're doing it. You have to cover it. You have to change it. Whatever it is, sort of thing. So
I was
yeah.
very surprised when I saw that because both went to go see her
Mhm.
brother's one act a couple weeks ago, and I remember they did the cheek kiss. And even though I haven't been in high school for years, my brain still went, "Wait a minute, what? Like
Like, can you do
the
that?
principal's in the audience? Are we
Mhm.
clear? Is this okay?"
Yeah, yeah.
It's just funny.
It's just very like we've talked about it a little bit before, and maybe we'll have a little more of an in-depth conversation about what it's like to go to a private Christian school like that. But because of the environment, it was very much like we want it to be clean, and so we couldn't really use that. I remember there were a couple scripts that we actually used for 1X where we actually had to omit curse words, things like that, and just to make it more palatable to an audience that holds both children and adults. So,
To segue a little bit, this isn't one act, but it's acting. There was these different competitions. There's stuff for sports, there's stuff for one act, but this is for all like tests and arts and all that. And you could do like a monologue or duet acting. And I did a duet acting with a friend from theater. And I remember we went pretty far. We performed it like we got into the finals of this with our little duet acting piece because we really liked it. It was a good one. We worked really hard on it, and we got to like the finals, and there was this guy and this girl that did one that was super quirky and fun, and they did a full on kiss. And for some reason, I remember getting mad because for some reason I was like, that's like an action that's very like, it ups it a lot if it's
hmm
done right. And I remember I got so mad that I think we didn't do this, but I think I told my theater friend when we walked out of there because like they got a lot of good feedback on that. I think I because we probably could have had a kiss in ours. I was thinking because it was like sad and dramatic, saying goodbye kind of thing. And I think I remember I turned to him and I was like, "They're never gonna know. Let's just kiss and do it so we can win." Like I was so mad because I was like, "We can't do that because our school is not okay with that." But this was a competition for private schools. Like they were all private schools, and each school has their own different kind of rules and regulations. But for these competitions, it's just you and the judges in a room. So I was thinking like they're never gonna know. Let's just go for it and make our make our duet acting better. We didn't end up doing that. But we did get to the finals with it. We had a lot of fun. We practiced it a lot and we had a lot of fun. So yeah, a little bit of a segue there, but I do remember that.
Well, I think that's a good way to go into. We we spent a lot of time laughing while in 1 act. I don't know what you would call it. It was very much like our own little family. We all had our own little like inside jokes and we had fun. It was awesome. We did every time we traveled for, competition, that sort of thing. We had our own little like rituals. We'd go to specific places, we'd do specific things, that sort of thing. So, we had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun. One thing that comes to mind specifically is I don't know what the like conception of this was, but Rose throughout high school had a quote list. And there's an entire section on this quote list dedicated to 1 act. And it is just a slew of these insane, out of context phrases that we threw around for years. And they make sense to no one.
Some of them we still can remember the context.
hmm
Some of them we cannot. I will say I only started a quote list because when I joined one act freshman year, that was a thing. Now, sadly, it didn't continue, I think, after my freshman year, but it was a thing that, because theater was so fun, somebody in theater was assigned to keep a quote list going of all the funny things we said in theater, and we would put it on a t shirt at the end of the year. that was where I got that idea, and I kind of wanted to write down stuff. So really it was my own personal one that had been going for years. So I had it from just like my little friend group, from theater. I have different trips labeled from quotes, and then eventually bleeding into college. I haven't been on it the past like maybe 2 years, unfortunately, but I do love going back and looking at it, because like it's just very, very fun to go back and look at. And we actually did that before we started this episode, to
Mhm.
kind of reminisce about some things. But yeah, that's kind of what inspired me to do that, is that quote list from freshman year, which I don't think I had on that quote list, but even that one had some good ones. And now that I think about it, I'm like, I think it's funny that we were able to be given our own quote list, because like, not that we were bad children, but if
No.
we were printing it on a t-shirt, it couldn't say anything bad. But I'm surprised we were as funny as we were without having
Mhm.
anything we weren't allowed to say.
Well, and honestly, like when you have something like that, it really I don't want to say encourages, but like it allows you to find the funny things in your normal mundane conversations. And so like maybe what we were doing in theater wasn't even that funny and we were just trying to find things that were so that they fit on the quote list. But now we get to go back and we can think, "Oh, we were rehearsing for this when we said this," or "Oh, we were coming back from this competition when somebody made this joke." Um and it's just it's a fun way to like I don't like spice up your life, make your life a little more fun, you know? Have a little bit of a, you know, fun list of things that people say.
Yeah, if I pulled out that t-shirt, I don't think anybody outside of that class would think any of them are funny or understand, because
Mhm.
they were just for us personally. They were just for us.
You had to be there.
You had to be there. Exactly. It was like that. I think it also included any quotes just from like the entire year, because I'm sure we've mentioned in the fall we would do one act. That means in the spring, us as the top theater group, we would be in charge of the spring musical for that year for the school. So we would do like a 40-minute one act in the fall, and then we would do like a big, like kind of fleshed out intermission musical. And
Mhm.
we tried to do that every year, every spring. Sadly, your senior year, my junior year, there was not one due to COVID, which actually brings me to my senior story that I probably should briefly go over. Um, so, my freshman year, it was Cinderella. Like I said, I was a statue, I was a dancing statue, so I had to do the gray paint in extra time. And then my sophomore year, it
Beauty
was.
and the Beast.
That's right. Yeah, sophomore year was Beauty and the Beast, which
Beauty
was
and
a
the
big
Beast.
one. That was a core memory right there for us. That was a big one for everybody,
Mhm.
honestly, I
Yeah.
think. And then my junior year, senior year, unfortunately, was Into the Woods, that we did not get to do because of COVID. And then my senior year, we didn't have a lot of singers my senior year. So instead, our theater teacher decided to just do a full regular play, which was Little Women. And that was super fun, because that year we didn't have a lot of singers. We also had like really run out of our male actors, and the Little Women is this was even a shorter Little Women. I think it was just like a 1 year Christmas to Christmas kind of play, but it was a full play with an intermission and a lot of lines, and that was tricky for us. That was a really big challenge for us, at remembering all those lines, because we're used to doing little 40-minute plays. And I think I tried to count my lines and I got past 200 and I stopped, because
Mhm.
I was a senior, so I got to play Joe. I got to play a bigger character, and even then, after practicing so much, I still would get scenes flipped or say the wrong thing. I remember I will never forget feeling so embarrassed after like class one day, and my theater teacher calling me out over me saying the wrong thing on stage. And I was like, yeah, that's on me, you guys. She wasn't deliberately being mean, but it was very much like well, maybe we won't do this next time. And I'm like, yeah, we're not going to do that next
Or
time. It was
yeah.
very sad.
Speaking of I'm doing that again. That was a weird noise. It just came out of my mouth.
Oh, I didn't even tell a sad story that I said I was going to say. So
No.
sorry.
No, do it.
So COVID hit Trinity's senior year, so she didn't even get to do the spring musical,
No.
which means following, when I came back in the fall for my senior year of one act, COVID was still kind of going around, but we were still having in person school. And we were one of the few actually starting up in person school that fall. And one act rolled around, and unfortunately, I only did the play like once, and I don't think I could even remember the full name of it or anything like that, but I remember that being kind of a frustrating year for a lot of reasons, but the biggest one was that I could tell you this. I woke up. This was like a week before we had to travel for one act with this play. This was my senior year for one act. I woke up, I got my Chick-fil-A, like I usually do in the morning, get my little biscuit and my sweet tea, and I go to class. I'm drinking my sweet tea, and I'm like, this is just straight up water, you guys. You gotta make your sweet tea sweeter. And then I take a bite of my biscuit, and I'm like, this is just paper. And I sat there, and I'm like trying not to cry as I realized I did not have my sense of smell or taste. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And I remember like contemplating telling my theater teacher the whole day because I just didn't want to face her for that. And I went to go to her and I was like, I think I have COVID. And she was like, here. And she pulled out like a little chocolate kiss and she handed it to me and I put it in my mouth and I was like, no. I
Gosh.
couldn't taste it. She hugged me. She was like, it's okay. And I was stressing out. I just go ahead and go home so like, I wouldn't spread it. But I did not get to go on the one act trip that year, but also not to bash, but like that was a tricky year and we were having a like mess up after mess up. Like it just felt like a lot of things were happening and it was like we were really pushing through to kind of get that one going. And I don't know. It kind of felt like that was a harder year for us one act wise. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the spring before was really hard because, you know, COVID was difficult for everybody. Let's say that. And it hit really hard for my little crew, because, it was our senior year, and our little Christian school had so many really fun, really memorable traditions for seniors that we didn't get to do. And as sad as that is, there were definitely harder things going on in the world at the time, but it really hit hard when we didn't get to do the musical. I remember I was I was really, really, really looking forward to it because I had taken over the entirety of the sets for Into the Woods. So I had a notebook full of designs. I was using pastels to make these really intricate, really beautiful designs for what would have been on stage. Um, and actually, that role cost me a bigger role in the actual musical. Um, and I was really disappointed at the time because I really wanted to be one of the main uh people, and because I wanted to do both, I couldn't. And then it didn't end up mattering because we didn't even, like, honestly, I didn't even get to start most of the sets. They were making a tree for me. They were making a tree for I had this let me try to explain this. There was this big rigging that had a tree on one side and Rapunzel's castle on the other side, her tower on the other side. And my dear brother, he was working so hard on actually making, my vision become reality, and we didn't even get to finish it. We didn't finish it at all. And then they put hardwood on the stage during COVID too. So it was all, pretty sad, especially because like One Act was such a big part of our lives, and we were really, really, really looking forward to this ending, this big ending. And we didn't get that ending. Um, but thus is life, I suppose. So
Yeah. I think it's honestly, I was super mad at that because at the time it felt like one act was a big deal for me. Like theater was a big deal. I mean,
mm,
even all my classmates knew that. Like, because theater was in the fall and I did volleyball, which was in the fall. So I didn't juggle the two, but like, I would leave volleyball like maybe 10 minutes early or so to go to rehearsal. And like, that was a very widely known thing that I was doing both. And like, everybody knew how much I loved it. So whenever I didn't get to do that senior year, I think there was a lot of sympathy for me. And I was like, which sounds so like, but I was like, it was kind of sad. But then I look back and I'm like, you know what? Maybe that just wasn't meant to be.
yeah,
And there could have been a lot of reasons. I don't dwell on it too much. But I also know that, again, this was a long time ago. And, we're not here to complain and be all negative. But I do
no,
remember my senior year, it was harder because I didn't really get a part that I wanted. I remember that. I was talked, I was given like a little like, listen, you are fantastic, which is why I want you for this specifically. And I was like, okay, cool, I understand that. But it was still hard,
Mm-hmm.
and it was harder for me to get into that character personally. Um, I think the senior year one was also a World War II set
No,
one,
yeah, it was.
so
I just don't
full
remember
circle
the
there.
premise of that one. I don't know. Whenever I think about the fact that we didn't get to do Into the Woods, I think, it's probably a blessing in disguise because it was such a big undertaking. Like, I was trying to create the biggest set that Trinity ever would have done for a musical, and I don't know that we would have been able to pull it off. And honestly, I don't think I would have been able to handle all of it at the same time because when I tell you I was spending hours outside of school, outside of rehearsal on these sets, I kid you not. Like there were these big wooden slats that acted as like walls, and I had planned one for Cinderella's house, the baker's wife's house, and something else. And I spent forever painting these and outlining them and refining them. It was insane. I was spending so much of my time on these, and I don't think it would have ended the way that I wanted it to if we had actually been able to perform.
And Beauty and the Beast was like a big set for us.
Yeah,
That was one
listen,
of our best sets.
I I yeah, well, so I designed the bookshelves for Beauty and the Beast, and I don't remember how in the world I got that job, but I ended up doing the bookshelves, and that was a big undertaking, and I had a main role, and I was spending hours doing these bookshelves. They were on like styrofoam, these big styrofoam panels. And so I had to like have them cut a specific way, and then they had to be painted a specific way, but the paint didn't lay on the styrofoam right. Anyway, it was forever, and they were these huge bookshelves, and they had to be then placed on top of like a ledge, and it was a very interesting set. I don't know who came up with like the it was like a two-tone set thing. So like there was one floor, and then there was stairs, and they went up to another floor, and that's where all the bookshelves were. And so it acted as like two stories, which was really interesting. I don't know who came up with that, but it was definitely cool.
I don't know who came up with that, but I do know that was a reused thing because
Oh,
I vividly remember this. I'm sure people will be like, please don't remember that. And it was, they did High School Musical, I think, when I was in
oh,
seventh grade or so. And I think that
yes,
exact thing was used. It just like had Wildcats painted on like the
yes.
front. But for us, we reused it as like a little second floor with like the library and all that, and like the rows
Hmm.
for Beauty and the Beast, and like these little stairs that we got to move. And like that was one of our bigger sets because it felt like it took up a big chunk. Speaking of which, because it was big, it was definitely, I did not like being up there. Thankfully, I never had to be up there. It was scary being up there because it was not very, well, I mean, we were careful, but it didn't feel very stable.
Everything was on wheels. Most sets at our school were on wheels because they're more easily moved that way. Some of it was for one act specific purposes, competition and stuff, which I don't even think you were allowed to have wheels on everything for that anyway. A lot of it was on wheels, and so those were on wheels, so they I mean they were sturdy, but like when you got on them it was kind of like, you kind of shake. But no, I didn't have any scenes up there too.
Yeah,
uh,
thankfully I didn't, but I do remember my scene partner did. And in Beauty and the Beast, that was a great year because again, like we just had a good time. Everybody loved their parts. Like it just felt like a great like smash kind of year where we all just had a great time, and like,
mhm.
everybody knows Beauty and the Beast, so it's not like something super tricky. And my like super close, I would say, best friend in theater at the time, we really wanted to be, before I got close with you. I had a lot of friends, but we were attached to hip for
Just
a short
kidding.
amount of time, and then like we started hanging out with like like it became like a
Right.
group of us. But we really wanted to be LeFou and Gaston because we just wanted to mess around with that, and I think we knew we were going to get that. It was the kind of year where like you didn't even really need to have auditions. Like you could put everybody in that. You could look at us and know where we wanted to
Hmm.
what we could do.
That no, okay, I'm sorry.
No, go for it. Piggyback.
Totally, this play, this musical I guarantee you, was entirely cast based on the fact that we just fit into the roles that we got. I mean, you could ask the teacher that, but like we just those are all the roles we everybody got the role they wanted, and everybody fit so well into the role that it was like seamless. And that's why it was so good, is because we were all just in the right spot. It was insane to have that many people fit those characters just so perfectly. It was crazy.
It was perfect puzzle pieces, you know, from like
Right.
both. I mean, not. I mean, like genders. In the. I mean, I played the opposite gender, but like
I
you know,
played a
if you,
man too,
yeah.
so
Well, I mean, like you know, we had people who wanted to sing and play those big parts. We had people who wanted to dance and play those big parts. We had people who didn't really like singing, but they still had a good part for them being an upperclassman, and they still got to have fun with it. And you know, there's a bunch of dancing and like dishes and all that, so we got to have a lot of like middle schoolers come in and have fun with that. And it just felt like it was literally puzzle pieces that fit.
Mhm.
And therefore we did get Gaston LeFou. We had a lot of fun with it. We got to come up with a lot of like the physical stuff to do on stage. Like we just had a grand old time. But if you know, at the end of the Beast, Gaston goes to try and kill the Beast. So that happens on this second story thing that we were talking about. So our stage is not a flat back wall, by the way. There's like a center, like open doorway in
It's
the
like an
middle.
entryway that
It's
you
an
can go
entryway in
through
the
in the
middle.
back. So you can exit side stage, but you can exit back center stage
Yeah.
too.
So that was just in front of that. So that wasn't a big deal. There was kind of like a little curtain kind of covering just the top bit of the doorway. But, you know, so for him to, you know, for Gaston to have his demise and fall off, he was just going to jump off that direction. Well, this second story thing was pretty dang tall. Like,
Wasn't it taller than you are?
yeah, it's
It
taller
had
than
to
me.
be.
It's taller than me. I'm like 5'9", I want to say. Maybe not. But it was pretty tall to where if you know in theater there's kind of like a curtain going across the top of the ceiling. So like if you were standing in the very far back, our heads would be cut off if we were standing on that top of that second story
Yeah, it
because
was
of
tall
how
enough.
tall it was.
Yeah.
So he had to jump off, you know, and you know, bye-bye Gaston. And the first time he did it, he really wanted to go for it as an actor, and he jumped. Well, he could not see the doorway. So this man, this poor man,
Tall
tall
man.
man, bonked his head really. Everybody's just bonking their heads, apparently. Everybody's just hitting their heads. That's just what it is, apparently. He hit his head on that top doorway, and we could hear it. I think I was standing back there just waiting because, you know, I was already off stage at that point and it was his last scene. And we could hear it, and he came down on the floor. And I'm pretty
Oh,
sure some audience members might have heard it too. I heard that
probably.
little clunk. And he was like, well, I'm not doing that again. So after that, you know, he still put his heart into it, but, you know, he had to jump down a little more carefully.
Not quite that much. It reminds me of when I very dramatically died in the 39 steps. We've talked about it a little bit, but there was this knife. It was cut in half, and it was glued to this tiny little thing of styrofoam, and then it was rigged to the back of my dress. And what would happen is I would walk, like I'd run off stage, or I'd get pulled off stage, I don't remember. And the stage manager, she'd put it in my dress, and then I told her, I was like, send it, just do it. And she knew that that's what was happening. And so every time she'd put it in really, really quick, and I'd give her the okay, and she'd shove me as hard as she possibly could onto the stage. And my knees, the entire time we were rehearsing this show, were just so scraped up because I mean, every time she was like, are you sure, are you sure? And I was like, just do it. And my knees would hit the ground so hard that they were like red and cut up. It was insane. um so, you know, sometimes you have to risk it all
Yeah.
for the sake of theater.
That reminds me of getting slapped my freshman year. Because, you know, ironically, the person who was playing like a guard was like one of the sweetest, nicest girls. And I was a freshman. And I kept saying, come on, slap me, make it look real. Like I really wanted her to slap me. And the poor
do
thing
it.
was too scared to slap me. I was like, come on, just hit me. Slap me. I think she had one really, really good one year. But
Mhm.
because, you know, you want to get the sound on stage.
Those are the
But
good
yeah.
ones. Whenever you're willing to be like, yeah, just do it. Like it's gonna hurt, but just do it because it looks good, or like it'll perform well. Those are the good ones. Those really are the good ones. So
Yeah, and then for my senior year, it was Little Women, and obviously, if you've seen Little Women, there's a emotional moment where Amy gets really, really mad at Jo and burns her book, her manuscript, and Jo is so mad. So that was a moment when I got to tackle the other girl in my grade, because there's only two of us on stage at that time. I got to tackle her to the ground and slap her. Well, she was the sister of the one that slapped me my freshman year, so it was kind of a joke that like it came full circle that like I got slapped by the older sister and now I get to slap the younger sister. Poor thing was so scared that I was actually gonna hit her pretty hard. She always kept putting her hands up when I was gonna like hit her. Um, I mean, I wasn't gonna hit her hard. I just wanted the good sound of the cupping, like when you cup your hand and it makes the good slap sound. I think I also remember vividly her father saying, "We love him." He was like, just he. I remember him saying like, "Just let her, just smack her hard." Like
He would say that.
he would say that.
He would say that.
Which was very funny.
He totally would say that. Oh my gosh.
We did a lot of physical comedy stuff. I remember as when I played as LeFou, I just kind of went all over the place with that. When we went to your brother's one act play a couple weeks ago, and we ran into some old teachers while we were there, which was very nostalgic. I ran into a old coach slash teacher who I vividly remember. She was my number one fan as me playing LeFou. She
Really?
thought it was hilarious. She loved it. I remember anytime I came to volleyball practice, she would, or like when I had to leave early for volleyball practice, she was like, go be LeFou or like whatever. And she just loved it. After the first time we did it, I think she just liked that we were just so hectic on stage. And like, again, I was one of the kids that didn't consider myself a singer, so I didn't want to sing in the musicals, but the Gaston song in the tavern is such a silly song that as long as you know how to carry a tune, you can do it. So I wasn't really concerned about how good I was singing because I kind of just had a lot of fun with that. And plus, Gaston was singing with me. And the whole point of this guy was that he was a great Gaston. He was not massive. So he had like this very obviously little like felt muscle thing
Yeah, it was
on
like a
with like a
muscle
shirt
suit.
over it, and it looked ridiculous, but that was kind of the comedy of it. So he was also singing as deep as he could, which made the whole image of it so much more funny. So it really just made that whole bit so much fun for us.
Part of the appeal of all of this is that, oh, I don't think we've mentioned this. Our high school is in an old Kmart, a converted shopping center. And so it's not strange when we say that a lot of our props, a lot of our costumes are cheaper, made from scratch. Some of it, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief and be like, oh yeah. Because like, if you've ever seen Beauty and the Beast, Belle's dad has this like machine, and he like tries to take it to the fair. Well, Belle's dad in Beauty and the Beast, he had a shopping cart. He used
like
a shopping
hula
cart,
hoop, like strung on it to spin or something. Just make some kind of contraption.
We just made some sort of giant moving wheelie cart thing. Like I said, you gotta suspend your disbelief.
Oh my gosh, I'll never forget him being like, Belle, I finished it. He spins.
It's just
he's like, it works.
He spins it. He's on stage and he spins it, and it's just
Mind you, this is a high school young man who's pretending to be a very much older.
Didn't they spray paint his hair?
They spray painted his hair gray, and he was given like these little science goggles on his forehead, and like this oversized trench coat to where he looked almost homeless, with this shopping cart and a hula hoop.
His shopping cart.
Here's what's really funny. So for Beauty and the Beast on stage, obviously you can't do like, the wolves scene and like, animals attacking and the horses. So it's like adapted for the stage to where the narrator is actually just talking about it. So, but I remember when we were thinking about it, we were like, can we just have like, because we let middle schoolers do some of the smaller roles and like dancing scenes and all that. And we thought like, can we just have middle schoolers dressed up as wolves chasing him around on stage? Because that would just be fantastic. I vividly remember that, but that wasn't really part of it. The narrator just kind of did that. So this, again, young man in a big old trench coat with spray painted hair and goggles, and his little shopping cart was just walking timidly across the stage like he was in the deep dark woods while this narrator was describing where he was going into the castle.
It's so funny. The whole thing, and he walks onto stage, and me and the guy who's playing Lumiere, because I was Cogsworth, so I was the British clock. We're standing, and Belle's dad. He goes into the castle or whatever, and me and the guy playing Lumiere, we're just like standing there. We're just like watching him in the dark, and he's sitting there going at nothing. He's pushing his shopping cart, and there's oh my gosh, it's terrifying. There's nothing there, and me and the guy are just.
Pretending
it's
to
just
be
the most awkward thing
clocking
in
the candle.
Oh yeah, and like that's the other thing is Lumiere's candlesticks, they were flower pots. And my clock was just styrofoam. It was this big flapping clock that moved every time I did.
Okay, but yours was pretty good. Like, we styrofoam you can cut and like glue together and paint.
Mm-hmm.
This, because we worked hard on these. This poor man had these candlesticks that were just 2 plastic flower pots with like the bottom cut out and like a duct taped like little handle so like he could like just hold it up straight. And then he kind of just like, if you can't see on the podcast, but I'm describing it, he kind of just held like these little plastic candlesticks between his 2 fingers while holding the pot on his hand, and that was it. We kind of turned the little clicker on so they were lit up, even though you couldn't even see that, and he just walked around with that, and like little black gloves on, so he just part of the pot. We didn't even paint the pots. These were just like brown
they were just
plastic
brown
pots.
They were just brown pots. It's so funny because it's all like very shoddy and like put together like really quickly, but like it was what we had at the time, and honestly it just made it so much more funny. Like it really worked. And like all the little kids, because she mentioned the middle schoolers, we had like little kids there to like do things, and like we'd go into the green room and we'd be standing there like waiting to go on stage, and these kids are like, and they'd like ask questions about costumes and stuff like that. It's just the most hilarious thing in the world. They're like, why are they wearing that?
Yeah, you got a 6-foot man in a little muscle suit, and then you got this other tall man with a bright yellow mustard shirt and trench coat with pots on his hands.
Pots on his hands.
And then you have you with like this big old styrofoam clock around you with numbers painted on your face.
Oh yeah, I had numbers painted on my face. I had a 6 on my chin, and it looked like I had hair growth. The way that they put it on,
this little curl.
It was a curl on my chin. If you know me personally, you can go on my Instagram. Those pictures do exist on the Instagram. There is a little curl on my chin.
I do believe mine are still there too from that great night. But these middle schoolers were very, very fascinated with our costumes and how far we went with these. Because I think also, if you remember in Beauty Beast, there's also the wardrobe, and the wardrobe was similar to your costume. It was just a lot bigger, so it's like this big old box just painted.
Well,
so whoever was playing the poor wardrobe was kind of like waddling, with this box.
Okay, so mine was okay, so it was basically 2 flat pieces of styrofoam cut in the shape of like a hexagon, and there was a clock face on it, and there was one on one side and one on the other side, and they were connected by like a shoulder strap, right? But what is it, Madame Grande de la Bouche or something like that?
Yeah.
Anyway, the wardrobe, she had hers was styrofoam, but it was built like a box, like literally built like a wardrobe. So all they did was they'd pick it up and they put it over her head, basically. So it was a lot bigger, and you couldn't really move as well. Wasn't she wearing my prom dress too?
She was.
Yeah. Anyway,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, she wore my prom dress under that. So
we didn't have a lot of fancy dresses.
No, we didn't.
Now that I think
Belle
about
did,
it,
though.
Belle did.
Yeah,
that's
Belle
where
did.
that's where the budget went.
Yeah.
It was a pretty dress though. So.
As it should. As
it should. It was a very pretty dress for the ending scene. But and if sadly to get to Mrs. Potts, her performance was fantastic. She was so good, but we didn't really have anything to make a Mrs. Potts costume.
She did have a really big skirt. I think they put a lot of petticoats under her. And honestly, the outfit looked really good.
It still worked. Yeah, it still worked. It just didn't. It wasn't like an actual like something she was wearing. It was more like her pose and her fluffy shirt and dress. And she just made the teacup pose and walked around and talked in her little British accent, and it was really cute.
she's good at everything. So
She is
yeah.
good at everything.
So, just that sort of thing. Yeah, and I had an accent on stage. Oh, fun fact. I don't know if we've talked about this, but uh almost every single character I've ever played on stage has been British. There's only one character that I have played on a stage that was not British, and it was my orphan character in Lafayette #1, and she only had like 3 lines. So I've always been British on stage. So I was a little British clock who was mad at everybody the whole time.
I do believe Joe was the only one that was my gender and age.
Really?
I played a lot of boys, which I didn't really care for. I mean, that sounded wrong. I didn't really care. I loved doing it.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about me playing Arpad? My pants were. Are you thinking about me in the newsboy cap?
Yeah, pretty much.
In those tight pants?
Yeah, pretty much.
And those tall socks?
Stop talking about it.
I'm
It's
sorry.
making it worse.
The photo is fantastic.
Oh my gosh, it is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, yeah. So, if you ever want me to pull out a British accent, just ask. I can pull it out real quick.
Beauty and the Beast was a whole ton of fun. I do remember that whenever we came out to do the bows, sometimes, you do it in groups of like, kind of the level of your character. And I remember you and I got to come out together because Gaston got to go out with kind of the main people, which was fine because we came out and we were like, let's do a booty bump on stage.
Well, and at this point, we were pretty close, pretty attached to the hip, pretty much doing stupid stuff all the time. And I don't know why we decided to do that.
We did not calculate the velocity of that coming from either side of stage. And we were like, let's just do it. Because once you get on stage for the first time and you kind of get those nerves out and then you go off, because I vividly remember this with Beauty and the Beast. We went on for the first little scene. It was very nerve-wracking because first going on stage and it came off and the adrenaline's up and I'm like, okay, I want to go back. I want to go back on stage. Like, it's just like you're having so much fun and then it's done and you've finished it and everybody's like applauding. So like we ran out so excited to do this booty bump. And
So
was it
fast.
you or I that kind of knocked the other one over because of how fast it was?
I think it was both, honestly.
We didn't even meet in the middle. Like it was.
No, I think
We almost fell over, but it was still cute because we did it and then we did our quick bow and then we went off.
And for a musical, you perform twice. So you perform twice. And the first time we did it, and we like fell apart. Like we hit each other so hard that we like came apart. Like it was literally insane. And like there's video footage of it actually where we we literally collide. And I think we kind of perfected it the next night and we decided not to go that fast or something. I think it was a little better and we just kind of like bumped, But the first time we were definitely like right in each other's faces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But carpet stage would have softened that fall.
Just hope there wasn't glass on it that night.
Oh my gosh. The tavern, that makes me think of the light bulb too. Because I can vividly remember my theater teacher. So I was not even in one act at the time, I believe. I think I was in 8th grade. Still on that stage. And Rose decided to put a box on her head. Which is actually not new.
Do you remember the time that you put a styrofoam head in your hoodie?
I was talking about that the other day with my coworker! We can talk about that too.
If you know me in real life, ask me for the photos. I have them.
Both of those involve really funny reactions from my theater teacher. Our theater teacher. But I remember 8th grade, I just decided to put a skinny box on my head, so my arms are up. So very dangerous. Because if I fell forward hard enough, I probably would have broken my nose.
Why did you do this?
Because I was Rose in 8th grade, and I decided to just run around the stage. But I can kind of see my feet, so I knew like, okay, I'm not gonna fall off. I can just see like where my feet are when you look down, like if you're wearing like a blindfold and you can kind of like peek down. But I ran into the wall, and I didn't see that coming. But
oh my gosh,
I smashed against a light bulb, and I kind of heard it, but I also just saw the little light bulb shards just fall at my feet, and I was like, oh no. So when I went to go tell my theater teacher, she was just like, get some tape and go clean it up. And I was like, okay. Which, because again, it was a carpet stage. You couldn't like sweep it and, you don't want anybody to step on it. So you kind of like use the tape like a lint roller almost. Like you just take 2 pieces and you kind of just stick it down, kind of like trying to get all the pieces. That's what I did. She wasn't disappointed. I think she expected it. Honestly.
Rose,
And that,
she definitely expected
and
it.
that I don't think that light bulb was ever replaced. Maybe it was later on, but it was broken for a while. There just wasn't a light bulb there, and that was a joke. But
You know what this is reminding me of?
one,
A very moment in this bedroom where there was a box on the floor and you did the same thing. This has nothing to do with One Act at all, but there was a box in here for some reason. I don't know why
it was
there
a
was
bigger
a box.
box. Okay,
Yes,
it was less dangerous.
Shush. There was a box in here. I don't know what we were doing. This is like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't even know. And I don't know why she put it on her head, and she was just like walking around, literally right here, just like walking around in like a circle or whatever. And so I told her to stop, and I directed her towards my left, which is where the bed is. And she didn't know where she was going. She couldn't see anything. I just told her to keep going until she hit the bed, and she fell flat on the bed with the box on her head. It's really funny.
I could protect my face, so I was less scared, but also I was in a controlled environment in a sense, but I still probably could have broken a light bulb in this controlled environment.
Probably.
But I forgot I've had a box in my head multiple times. Makes it sound like I was bullied.
I've had a box on my head.
What was the other?
It's like me getting in really weird positions to do cinematography things when we were doing our thing, where like I'm like crawling on the ground or like
camera rigging is so fun. The other instance with my theater teacher, which I'll never forget. I was just talking about this the other day with my coworker, and that is, if you remember that not trend, but like that kind of freaky thing where you could take like one of those styrofoam heads, like where you like put like wigs on them, like set them there. We had those in theater, and I borrowed one of my theater friends' hoodies. He had a really big hoodie, and I wanted to like, you put it in the hoodie and it kind of sits on the top of your head and it makes you look like freakishly tall with like a little styrofoam head. I wanted to do that. So I did it. I was having fun, and then everybody it was rehearsal after school.
Yeah,
so everybody wanted to take a trip to Starbucks to get some coffee. And I was like, I kind of want to go to Starbucks like this. And they're like, yeah, let's go. So we all head out the door. Our theater teacher was coming back from an errand at this point. And we walk out. And mind you, the hoodie, you can't see my face. But she knew who I was. She knew. And we come out, we pass by her, and she goes, where are we going? And we all stop. We don't acknowledge me with the styrofoam head on. And they're like, we're gonna go get coffee. And she was like, okay, be careful. Like, even though I could barely see, I could not see it all out of this hoodie, I still made eye contact with her. And she was like, just let us go. So there's a video of that, of us walking into Starbucks and picking up the coffee with me with a styrofoam.
I have at least 4 videos of this. We were in the car, and I don't know what was happening other than me sitting there just dying, laughing at you. Everything you did, I was just dying. Because she walks into the Starbucks. There's a video. She walks into the Starbucks. She's in front of me, walking into the Starbucks. And I think I had the camera up. And I said, Rose. And she turns around and she goes, with the styrofoam head on.
I think I'm holding my coffee and I like give a thumbs up or something like that.
It's the most like jarring and like funny pose you will ever see someone do. It was hilarious. This is the kind of stupid stuff we used to do all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, what else was there?
I'm trying to think of something stupid I did. Now I feel like we've bashed you a little.
No, it's okay. I'm used to it. I did a lot of stupid stuff, and I look back and I'm like, I think I just didn't care. But also, high school is boring, so like, why not? We did stupid stuff all the time, especially in theater, especially like in after school rehearsals when we were just like having fun. Because kind of felt like we were the only ones there, just like rehearsing and all that. But I'm thinking of like a crazy physical stuff we did on stage or stuff like that. But I do remember, I want to say...
You want to talk about the bite?
The bite of 87. Why did we not dub it that? Oh my gosh. You want to talk about your bite of 87?
Yeah, I want to talk about my bite.
What was it? 2019? The Bite of 19.
That doesn't sound as good.
No, it doesn't sound as good. The Bite of 87. Tell us about the Bite of 87.
Well, I didn't do quite as many stupid things. However, there was a silly rehearsal, and we only did one silly rehearsal in the entire time I was in one act. And it was for the 39 steps, and it was really funny. Basically, the concept of a silly rehearsal is that you rehearse the play, but you have the freedom to do whatever you want. And so we like, play it in funny accents, or add a line here, or do this funny motion, or whatever. And so my death scene in this specific play that we've talked about way too much at this point, we were doing it during a silly rehearsal, and my character is laying on the ground. She's dying, and she has, like, information in her hand that she needs to give the main guy. And ordinarily what would happen is she would die and just, like, drop it, and he'd pick it up, basically. But for some reason, I decided that during the silly rehearsal, my character was just going to take forever to die. And so I'm sitting there just, like, holding it and arguing, like, no, I don't want to give it to you, whatever. And he's trying to, like, rip it out of my hand.
I think you were also dead, and you just decided to clutch it for a little bit, so you had to yank it out of your hand.
I think so.
But after, like, one or two yanks, he just...
Yeah, because what happened is, like, I wanted to be dead longer, and, played that. And then I remember, I really do remember thinking this, is when we first started rehearsing the show, I was like, it's kind of, I kept thinking about her, like, rigor mortis, and, like, holding it and, like, having it stuck in your hand or whatever, because we were in a forensics class at that point, and so I was like, I was thinking about that. And anyway, so I held on to it longer. And he's trying to take it out of my hand, and I'm not letting go. And Home Slice decides to bite my arm. So he grabs my arm like a chicken leg, bites it, and I scream and almost roll off the stage. Like, it was very funny. There is a video of that moment, and I praise the Lord that somebody was videoing. I don't know who it was. Was it you?
I don't think it was. Maybe that was me. Maybe I was sitting there. I don't remember. Actually, it could have been me.
It was funny.
Now that I think about it, this kid has a reputation for biting. Unfortunately, he also has a reputation for eating people's things that he shouldn't eat, and it makes me very sad because I remember it.
You're one to talk.
That's true. I've eaten things, but here's the deal. I have eaten.
Sounds so bad.
No, I have eaten my own paper out of my own decisions. This man decided to do it out of pure hatred.
Rose has eaten cardboard, erasers, tape, paper, butter.
Swallowable, just letting you know. But yes, paper. I didn't care. I was bored. But
no, I dared you to do it.
I have something that I keep in my wallet still to this day because I think it's funny. And it's basically a little joke. If you see me someday, you might know it, or if you know it, you've seen it. But basically, you have a little paper with a little duck drawn on it, and it's part of, like, a little joke. So I decided to, like, draw a duck on a little piece of paper and keep it in my wallet to have as, like, my quote-unquote party trick, but really it was just for fun. But then it became a thing to keep in my wallet, and it was kind of fun. Anyway, I got excited because I had this duck for quite a while. It was kind of the paper had been through a lot, but, like, that was kind of the memory of it, is that it had been through so much. I decided to, with this main man who was in theater with us for a while, I told him the joke. I think he liked it. He thought it was funny. But then I'm getting sad just talking about it. He just decided to eat it. He ate my duck.
Did he eat it out of your hand? Am I remembering that wrong, or did he take it from you and he ate it?
I don't remember.
I'm pretty
I can't remember if he was already holding it or if I was holding it and he decided to eat it.
Bite it. I think he did.
He definitely tore it. With those freaking canines. Why? I don't know. That still makes me sad to this day that he ate my duck.
Oh gosh, I can totally picture you doing it and him just straight up taking it out of your, like, and biting it off your hand and
just
eating it.
Crying.
Like, absolutely can totally picture that.
It was really sad, guys. I have a new duck. I have a new duck drawn
there
on paper.
There are real tears over here.
And I keep him in my wallet, and he's my party trick. I forget about him sometimes, so I think whenever I pull it out and I decide, hey, I think somebody might think this is funny. They actually think it is kind of endearing for me to have it because it's a very stupid joke.
Does it have a name?
I don't think so.
You should name it.
I definitely should name it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's cheese grated my water bottle before. Now that I think about it, I think we found that on the quote list. Is that there was a cheese grater that was our theater teacher's. It was a part of our theater teacher's like wedding presents, you know, because you get kitchen appliances. We had a cheese grater that infamously became his, and he cheese grated my water bottle to where there was a hole in it, and I couldn't drink out of it.
We were traveling to one act, like, competition. We were traveling, and for some reason, like, we had been in the classroom, we were eating, and then we got on the vans to go to competition, and for whatever reason, he decided to take this random cheese grater that was in the room onto the van. And he proceeded to carry the cheese grater around for the entire trip.
It became his.
What reason? I don't know.
I don't even know where he got that. He found a chain under the seats of the van, too. There's a video of that, and you can literally hear you in the background going, he just pulled out a chain. A literal chain. He was a wild card, but he was great physical actor on stage, and he was very funny. Totally. And he provided a lot of laughs, as well as many other people. We have so many. There was a lot of funny people in theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've got a lot of, like, really hilarious videos. I don't know if they're hilarious out of context, but in context, they actually are hilarious. Speaking of, nobody's gonna get this, but there's a video from, it's like my first semester in one act, I think, and bear in mind, I have two brothers. One of them is 2 years younger than me, so we were actually in one act together, both my junior and my senior year. And so the first semester I was in one act, there's this video. It's like after a rehearsal, something like that, and there's probably 6 people sitting in the classroom, and all of a sudden, my brother comes up to the doorway, and instead of coming in, he just passes by it a few times, and we were like, what? Like, kind of weird. And he starts doing this whole, like, he rolls across the floor and then he crawls across the floor. It was the funniest thing in the world. But it's one of those things that, like, you kind of have to be there to, like, think that it's hilarious, you know? So, you know.
We could probably, because I don't clean out my camera roll. So we have moments every now and then where we deep dive into old videos, and it's very, like, nostalgic and reminiscing, but it's also funny to, like, find all those random videos we saved. We don't really know why we saved them, or they're very out of context, or we kind of forgot about them. Mm-hmm. That's always very fun to do, at least for me personally. If anybody knew me in high school, I was just somebody who always liked recording things. Speaking of which, there's actually a video I just came across when we were reminiscing, and one of them is, it's very funny even out of context, because I'm just videoing me and the one act people at dinner, and it's all silent, and they're all just kind of smiling at my camera, making silly faces, and then you hear one of my classmates go, she does this all during lunch, and she just zooms in on random, and I get to her, and I zoom in, and she goes, Rose, stop! And even out of context, that's a really funny video, because there's no audio from me, it's just people looking at my camera. But,
I mean, I'm sure it got annoying at the time, but honestly, I couldn't be happier that it was a really weird habit that you had, because when I started one act, I was like, why does she have her phone out for everything? And then I started taking videos of everything, and it's so nice to have all, like, the funny stuff, you know? So.
I really just saw it that way, because before I even had a phone, I had a 3DS, and I recorded things on that. I just loved recording things, and then I got to the phone, and I kept doing that, and, like, the reasoning for that has now come to fruition. I just like that kind of thing, but also the memories. And I've been told that, like, I record too much, but I think I've also been told by people, thank goodness, because I just have so much stuff. Mm-hmm. I have so many funny memories, even if they were, like, really random. But I think it's amazing because I realized, like, oh, this is on a micro SD card. I could keep all this. I don't have to wipe it. I could keep this. This could just be a little micro SD card in my SD card case, and I pull it out and I'm like, this is evidence. This was early Rose. Oh my gosh. There's so many fun memories, but I like that we have so many videos, even if they are random, from theater. Most of them are theater. Mm-hmm. But and we look through that, we look through the quote list, and we just, like, so many things resurface, things we've kind of forgotten about or anything like that, and that's just it's really fun to look back on.
It's like, when you watch a show and you really, really like the show and you maybe watch it twice, three times, whatever, and then you go a year or two without seeing it, and then you watch it again and you're like, whoa, it's almost like watching something brand new. I only remember bits and pieces. So it's like filling in the gaps of like episodes that we don't remember as well as others. So that's kind of fun.
Like pages torn out of a book, and we just putting. Speaking of which, there's actually a video on my phone also of my classmate on a one act trip where we had an English book we had to read, and the second we were done with the final, she ripped up the book.
So rude.
We hated that book. She just ripped it up. It was our copies though. They were ours personally. Like we got to keep them. And the second we were done with that final, I have a video of her just smiling at me while ripping up the book. And I was like, good thing we're done with that book. We actually did need it one more time after that. But she ripped it. There's just pages of it all over the lobby. Because, whenever we went on trips, it was kind of up to the teachers to make sure, like, we took tests if we had to take them beforehand or afterwards or during the trip. So sometimes if we had to take them during the trip, we'd go down in the lobby and she'd monitor us and have us take the tests. And that was, her and I were the only ones of my grade, so we were the ones that had this English test. And we went down and took it in the lobby, and the second we were done, she ripped up the book.
Well, I guess we can be thankful that Rose never ripped out any pages, if we go back to the metaphor.
Lots of videos.
So, well, we have talked a lot about the funny stuff, but there are a lot of things in this section of our lives that we're proud of, things that we're happy we did, things that we like to look back on, things that helped us grow. I think we should talk about those a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have ones that stick out? Like the first thing that comes to mind?
I mentioned it in a previous episode, but I kind of turned a page to keep with the metaphor. I turned a page when I joined One Act, changed up my friend circle, kind of changed, what I was spending time on, who I was spending time with. And I'm proud that I did that. Was One Act the catalyst for that? No, not necessarily, but it was a big part of it. So I'm proud of that. But when speaking specifically about One Act, it really, I think, shaped who I am as a creative person. Without One Act, I think I would be an entirely different human being, for sure. And that's has a lot to do with the people and a lot to do with the environment itself. I just went into it and I let myself be molded in a good way to be confident and secure in being a little nerdy, being a little quirky, being a little creative. And that I think that's a big thing for me. But other than that, there are a lot of things that I did during One Act that were really cool. I've always been really good at accents. We talked about this, but I've always been really good at accents, and I was really proud of the fact that I was able to carry accents and make them sound realistic on stage. That was a big deal for me. I felt really proud of that fact. I've been able to sing my whole life, but One Act grew this ability in me to sing on stage, and I'm, a fair singer. It's not really anything grand, but it's one of those things where I feel like One Act granted me the ability to grow. And if I'm proud of anything, I think I'm proud of that fact. Once upon a time, I think I would have been very proud of the, huge amount of friendships that came out of that. As an adult, I think a lot of those have changed. But at the time, those friendships meant a lot. And I think they were very necessary at the time too. So I think, there are facets to it. I'm proud of a lot of things.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Obviously, the friendships were a huge deal. The people that we met, they definitely set a course
Mhm.
for us. I can most definitely say that if I did not join theater, I would be in a totally different place. If I hadn't even met those people, I would be in a totally different place, because the people that I met in theater have set me on the course that I am today. They've made a great influence in my life, and it's sad to think about, because I remember even in high school, whenever we'd finish a play and we'd all go to dinner that night because we were done, and it was such a going out to dinner after a play was such a it was an amazing bittersweet feeling, like the end of a season,
Mhm.
like the saying goodbye kind of thing, even though we weren't even saying goodbye. Or when we were doing the last plays for like seniors, it really did feel like goodbye, and we all went out to like IHOP that was like open late at night, or
Yeah.
Whataburger, and we all just were like having so much fun because we were after this big high of finishing our show. And I very vividly remember those and how fun those were, and how those felt like the best way to describe it for me is like Perks of Being a Wallflower, the tunnel. Those moments at night after plays most definitely felt like that for me personally. And it always felt weird going home after that at night. Like I felt
Mhm.
so like
Quiet.
weird going home after that at night. Those kinds of
Yeah.
moments, and like leaving the school parking lot when it's dark, whenever we were done cleaning up and taking all of our makeup and costumes and putting them away. Which I'm getting very sad here, but like it's like I remember those things very
Yeah.
vividly, and how bittersweet they were because of all the connections that I made. And I think I think that I learned a lot, and I made a lot of friendships and relationships that have taught me a lot. Obviously,
Mhm.
you learn, you live and you learn. And again, I feel like you always get the question like, do you regret anything? Would you change anything? And people are
Right.
like, the answer has to be like, no, because like it's where I am today. It's like, yeah, that is the smart answer. But if like deep down, I'd probably be like, I really wish I hadn't said this in this one situation, which I still do feel that way. I would say there is a good, I could probably count like a couple things on one hand that were just so embarrassing. I
Right.
don't tell anybody. Not that they were bad. It's just like, even today, I'm like, I really wish I hadn't said that. That was a really stupid thing to say. But when I look back and I think about it, I'm like, yeah, but that was Rose figuring stuff out. That was Rose being stupid and embarrassed, so she wouldn't be embarrassed like that again, or making that same mistake in college, which
Yeah.
thankful for.
Well, I think there's a healthy balance to honoring what you've gone through and being proud of, being glad for it, and regretting some of it. Like, I think it's okay to regret that you may have said this or you may have done that. But in hindsight, you look back at those things and you realize that you wouldn't be where you are if you hadn't said those things or you hadn't done those things. And I think while One Act was a big deal for us creatively and personally, in the sense that we got to have a lot of fun, it also grew us a lot as people, and it taught us how to be friends to other people, how to be friends to ourselves, how to interact. And those are big things. And you talk about like the ending and like the end of the season. And I remember at the end of Beauty and the Beast, it was really sad. We performed our last, Beauty and the Beast show, and we have our little like after show ritual, and we cried. We cried, we went to dinner, we hugged. It's one of those things where like we realized it was the end of an era and a really large chunk of our group was leaving. Um and I don't think I've ever felt like that again. Like I think um it was a time to have, and I've never had so much fun in my life, but I've also never felt as sad as I did then. So, yeah, I think you're right.
Definitely. I because that's also the good thing. Like I look back and I remember like those funny moments, those embarrassing moments, or like things you may regret or mistakes, quote unquote. And obviously, like I might have regretted saying that, or like my timing, or
Mhm.
how I went about it, or just something embarrassing that I did. But I don't regret where it's put me. I think that's the
Yeah.
big thing. I look back and I'm like, it's been long enough that when I look back, I'm like, yeah, that was embarrassing. And like, yeah, I really hated myself in that moment. But when I look back, I only think of the good stuff and it makes me just so happy. Like when I
Mm-hmm.
look back on videos, I'm like sad, but I'm so happy because I'm like, that was so fun though. And like,
Yeah.
this person was so fun to have around, or I'm so glad I became friends with them for this, even if it was a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
think
it's just positive to me.
turning the page is a hard thing to do, but once you've done it, you know, it's a good thing.
Because I know it sounds like we're saying obvious stuff like, oh, you the further you get, the memories are just happy and like you miss them and like you're not thinking about the negative, but like it really is that way.
Yeah.
It's a very calming feeling when you look back on stuff like that.
I think this might be a little bit of a segue, but I think that the older I get, the less weight there is on the things that I put weight on in high school. When I was a kid, I was so worried about A or B. And then in high school, I was so worried about what people thought of me or how if I did this, how is this going to make me look and that sort of thing. And how did that conversation go and was it supposed to be different and that sort of thing? But like the further away from it that I get, the more that I realize that it doesn't really matter. Like people are going to think of you what they think of you. And whatever happens in your relationships is going to happen. I mean we have maintained a lot of friendships and some we haven't. And regardless of where they ended up or how they ended up there, that doesn't mean that we cherish those friendships any less because they were what they were at the time. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And like, even if something ends and it doesn't end well or it doesn't end the way that you want it to, you can still appreciate a person or an experience for what they were. And that ending that you may not like kind of dissipates. Like it doesn't really matter anymore. You're just thinking about the good things instead of the bad things. But I don't know if that's just part of getting older and maybe I'm aging myself. Maybe I sound like a grandma right now, but
I don't know, for some reason my brain thought I've been playing a game recently, which is super fun, but my brain thought of it as like, yeah, it's kind of like playing a video game. Like in the moment you're like throw your controller down because you're
mm,
so mad at this one
you
fail.
rage quit. I do that
You
all the
rage
time.
quit, I
Yeah.
know. But like you said, the further you get away, the more it's like that was so insignificant. I did not need to be mad about that. Or like I could only think about what I earned and what I accomplished and
Hmm.
the awards that I got, metaphorically, of course. And it's
Right.
just genuinely like the that was a good way to put it. Like the endings that you may have not liked, they really start to dissipate to where you only remember the good stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's not to say that like bad things don't happen for a reason and they don't teach you anything, but like for sure, the, there are things from this period in our life that didn't conclude how we thought they would, and it's still one of the greatest periods of our lives thus far. Um, I think we're thankful for that. And I think that is something to be proud of, to be able to look back and be like, you know what? This wasn't perfect, but it was mine. It was mine at the time, and that's a big deal. So,
Uh, yes. Like yeah, like with Beauty and the Beast, like that we talk about it like it was one of the like the highs, like one of the biggest with like so much of the fun stuff. But I
mhm,
think we'd also argue that year also had a lot of the weird low stuff.
mhm,
Had both because you get both. But
right.
when we look back, all we remember is how fun Beauty and the Beast was and all that.
Well, sometimes I worry that like we talk about these things and people think that we're stuck in high school, but honestly, I think it's a big deal to be able to fixate on a part of your life and pick out the moments that made you who you are. It colored the page that was our turning point, the page that led to the one that we're on now. And I don't want it to seem like we're stuck there. I just think we're proud of it. And I think that is the most important part. And we go from giggles to serious conversations and things like that. And, you know, maybe it's everywhere, but
I worry about that too. I worry that people are like, you guys talk about this too much. It's like, yeah, no, but we haven't seen each other in a long time, and these are the memories that we have. And now that we're older, getting to talk about it is kind of like it's very therapeutic, and it's always very interesting to look back on those moments. Like when I went into college, I was not thinking about high school for like years. I
mm-hmm.
hit like maybe a point in a summer where I wasn't doing classes or a lot of short films or anything like that. So I kind of just, you're alone with your thoughts. And I was really reminiscing about my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of hit like a tidal wave. And I started becoming very, very hyper aware of who I was, where I had been, where I was going, and why I was the way that I was. And
Right.
I call that my summer of 23. It was just because it was one of those things where I was in school doing like stuff from morning to night and I loved it. And then I hit summer and I was doing like nothing. And I didn't have barely any friends on campus. So I was just alone with my thoughts, which is can be a lot. But it was a very, very insightful summer to me because I literally just I reminisced about a lot of stuff, school and non
Mm-hmm.
school.
I think a big part of growing up is learning how to look at your life in retrospect, being retrospective about the things you've been through and the people that you've been through. Like, I think that's a big deal. And I mean, yes, a lot of this is us imparting our crazy stories or, our opinions. But I think another part of it is that, like, we're also processing. Like, we're 23. We're young, we're figuring it out, and I think part of that figuring it out is processing your life and understanding where you came from and where you're going and why you're doing it at all. Um and who do you want with you on that journey? And I think um One Act taught us who we are, and I think it taught us who we want with us. Um and I hope to, like, sort of impart that on anybody who listens, to be, be thoughtful about who you're with and where you're going and what you're doing, and make sure it means something, because we did something so meaningful and it's a big deal for us. It's, a very, very notable chapter in our lives, to keep with the book analogy that we're, beating to death. Um, so if anything, enjoy our crazy stories and go find some of your own.
Even if they feel stupid. Like, we have so many crazy stories. And I mean, yeah, we reminisce about this, but I could do an entire episode of what we're doing just now with like college stuff. And I've been
Mm-hmm.
done with college for over a year, and yet I still reminisce about that. Because even that
Right.
is that's very slowly starting to fade away as well, from like slowly freshman to sophomore, and all those people that I met that I miss
Mm-hmm.
heavily. Like I could it's just duh, that's just how phases of life work,
Yeah.
and it's just
I don't think you should let anybody tell you that, like, you can't think about specific periods of your life. I think when I graduated high school, everybody was like, I don't want to think about that. I want to
yeah.
move on. I want to talk about something different. But I don't think that's productive, because you're essentially shutting off a part of your life, and I don't think that gets you anywhere. I think as you grow, you should look back on different periods in your life and acknowledge them. And, like, you have college. I've got 4 years of working 3 jobs and doing school online and being a part of different groups, and like, you learn, you grow, you do different things, and if you don't think about those things, then you're essentially putting yourself in a box and you can't grow. And beyond that, you're not having any experiences, and you're not finding quotes to put on a quote list, or videos to save, or people to save.
And not to say that you're always having to look back at the different footprints you made and analyzing it. I mean, I didn't even really start thinking about high school until like
Right.
3 years after. So like even if you look back at it like years later and you kind of uncover all those things, I personally think the more time that goes by, the more, I don't know, insightful it is looking back, because so much time has passed from that
Mhm.
version of yourself. And it's very, very weird to think about, but very, very, I don't know. I describe it as like a skin crawling feeling, but like in a good way, to look back on like all that kind of stuff.
We talked a lot about it in the last episode, and there's an aspect to that movie that we talked about a little bit that is like the nostalgia that's built into the music and the cinematography and the acting and the writing and everything. This idea that is nostalgia and the sadness that comes with it. You look back and you're like, it's sad that that's over, but then there's this sort of bliss that comes with the future that lies ahead with the past in mind. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think that's a lot of like what we're trying to do is we're trying to like paint this picture of a very important time, but also a time that's coded in this sort of like endearing but sweet nostalgia that we not so much long for, but look back on and savor. And that like we had that fun. We knew those people, we did those things, and now we get to look back on it and sure, maybe it's a little gut wrenching. Like you're not doing the same thing, but like you're still searching for something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. And looking at everybody around you and where they've come, and it's just how far they've gone is also very, it's weird to think about, but it's also so cool to think about because you're, again, same thing. You're thinking about yourself and where you were back then, but you're looking at them, even if it's just through a post of them like getting
Hmm.
engaged or having a kid or getting like this big time adult job. Like it's so cool to think about because because I don't know about anybody else. I mean, any classmates out there, when I people, I see those posts or those life updates, and I'm like, "Aw, so cool! I took this class with them. I remember when they did this. That's so fun. They're getting married now." Like I think that all the time. It's just so
Yeah.
fun to. It's so reminiscing,
I just
turning a
think it's
page.
heartwarming. It's heartwarming.
Very heartwarming.
Things change, and I think change can be scary, but like if you look at it in the face and realize it for what it is, it becomes a lot more than that. So,
Change is very scary. I am not a change person. I need
yeah,
a
I'm not
comfort,
either.
but just gotta look change right in the eye or right at their forehead because socially that makes people insecure. You're like, woof.
Yeah.
But yeah, our matcha's a little melted, but we drank most of it.
Yeah, I drank most of mine.
But I don't know, a little too sweet for me. We might try making it next time again.
Yeah.
Maybe add something different. I don't know. We'll try to mix it up a little bit.
Our next episode will probably come out in December, so maybe we'll dip our toe into something a little more Christmassy.
Little Christmas flavors.
I don't like Christmas before Thanksgiving, so no, no, no. Um, so we might dip into that a little bit. It'd be fun.
Yeah. But this was our little theater episode, our big reminiscing episode, and letting all these stories come out. So thank you for letting us do that.
Yes.
Even if you didn't listen, this was therapeutic for us. We like talking about this. But
Mhm.
yeah. I guess you'll see us in the next episode, which will probably be more towards the holidays.
Yes. The next episode might have a little something to do with reboots. We might get a little angry next episode. Tune in if you want to get upset with us.
He ate my duck.